Chapter 5. The Valuation Ceremony. 3 days passed. Nothing happened. No more envelopes. No more ink creatures. No black drones descending from secret seams in the ceiling. The hum was still there. I could feel it every time I stood still for more than a few seconds. But it had retreated, gone shy, like an animal that had shown itself once, and was now waiting to see what I'd do about it. I hadn't gone to the stuttering streetlight. Not yet. Every night, I told myself tonight. Every night, I stood at my bedroom window, staring out at the manufactured dark of the luster's night mode, and I felt the pull, the tug behind my sternum, the quiet insistence of the hum. And every night, I didn't go. Because of the woman. Because I kept seeing her unrender. The soft dissolution of her edges. The way her face went translucent. The way the floor erased her boot prints like they were typos. She had been real. She had been right there. And the pulse had deleted her like a corrupted file. And no one had noticed. And the fountains had kept playing. And the sky had kept glowing. And the world had healed over the wound in 2 seconds flat. What would it do to me? I was a zero. The drone's lens had passed over me. But the glitch lady had been a glitch too. And that hadn't saved her. Maybe the difference was that she'd been visible enough to target. Maybe my invisibility was a kind of armour, or maybe it was a countdown, and the clock was just running slower for me. I didn't know. I didn't know anything, and I was running out of time to figure it out, because today was Valuation Day. Valuation Day was the biggest event in the Ridgeline Prep calendar. Bigger than Match Day. Bigger than the Sector Festival. Bigger than the annual Gratitude Recalibration, where every student was required to write a public thank you letter to the Pulse for its continued optimization of their lives. Once a year, the Pulse performed a comprehensive reassessment of every student's value score. Not the daily fluctuations. Those happened in the background, nudging your number up or down based on social interactions, academic output, creative contribution, physical health metrics, and about 400 other data points you weren't supposed to think about too hard. The annual valuation was different. It was a full audit, a deep scan. The Pulse pulled every byte of data it had collected on you over the past 12 months. Every conversation, every meal, every heartbeat, every dream it had monitored through your sleep pod. And it ran the whole thing through the master algorithm. Then it gave you your number, in public, on stage, in front of everyone. The school called it a celebration of growth. The students called it the ceremony. And everyone understood, even if nobody said it out loud, that it was the single most important day of the year. Your valuation score determined everything for the next 12 months. Your class placement, your social tier, your housing priority, your access to extracurricular programming, even the quality of the nutrient blends your kiosk would offer. A high score meant the world opened up. A low score meant it contracted. A 0 score meant it didn't see you at all. I'd been through 3 valuations. Each one played out the same way. My name would appear on the roster. The system couldn't completely ignore a registered student. And when my turn came, I'd walk to the stage, the Pulse would scan me, and the screen behind me would display 0.0, unindexed, polite, confused silence, a few glances. Ms. Tanaka would smile encouragingly. I'd walk off. The next student would step up, and the room would remember how to breathe. 0 wasn't the worst thing. 0 was nothing, and nothing, I had learned, was something people could look away from very comfortably. But today felt different. Today, the hum was louder than it had been all week. The auditorium was transformed. The Pulse had configured the space into full ceremony mode, a term I'm pretty sure someone had designed specifically to make surveillance feel festive. The seats were arranged in concentric semicircles, facing a raised stage, each row tiered so that every student had a clear sightline. The lighting was cathedral. Tall columns of soft gold light rose from the floor to the domed ceiling, giving the room the feeling of being inside a very beautiful, very expensive church, dedicated to the worship of data. The stage itself was dominated by a single structure, the Valuation Arch. Two curved panels of translucent smart glass, about 12 feet tall, forming a gateway that every student would walk through. When you stepped between the panels, the pulse performed its deep scan, a process that took approximately 4 seconds, but felt, according to everyone I'd ever overheard, like a lifetime. The panels would glow. Your data would cascade across their surfaces in streams of golden light. And then your score would appear, massive and radiant, hovering in the air above the arch for everyone to see. It was objectively beautiful. It was designed to be beautiful. Beauty was the point. If you made the surveillance gorgeous enough, people forgot it was surveillance. The air smelled like something new today, not the usual truss blend or grapefruit or citrus, something the Pulse had clearly engineered specifically for this occasion. A layered scent that combined warm amber with something bright and slightly electric, like ozone after a storm. It smelled like importance, like the air itself was telling you to pay attention. 400 students filed in. The noise was different from a regular assembly. Tighter, higher pitched, vibrating with an energy that the Pulse's ambient systems were clearly trying to modulate and failing. You can't algorithm away the primal human fear of being judged. I took my seat in the back row, the outermost ring. The seats here were slightly smaller than the ones in the front, and the ambient lighting was a shade dimmer. Subtle hierarchies baked into the architecture. Principal Voss took the stage. She was a tall woman with silver hair and a value score that was rumoured to be in the high 9s, though adult scores weren't public, and speculating about them was technically a social friction violation. She wore the standard administrative uniform, white, clean-lined, with a small pulse insignia on the collar that pulsed with a soft blue light, synced to her heartbeat. "Welcome," she said, and the auditorium went quiet in that instant, obedient way that only happened when the pulse dropped the ambient sound to 0. Today, we celebrate what makes each of you extraordinary. Your growth, your contributions, your value, she smiled. The Pulse sees all that you've given this year, and today it reflects that gift back to you. Applause, not spontaneous. The Pulse triggered a subtle haptic buzz in everyone's wristband at the same moment, creating a synchronized clap that sounded organic but was anything but. The ceremony began. They went alphabetically, which meant I had time. Lena Ashford, 8.9. A Cascade of Gold. Applause. Tomas Barrera, 7.4. Warm Yellow. Respectable. Applause. Marcus Vey got a 5.1, down from 5.6 last year. The arch glowed a muted amber. The applause was thinner. Marcus walked off stage with his jaw set and his eyes fixed on a point somewhere above the back row. The decline would cost him. Lower class tier, reduced kiosk access, fewer match options. The algorithm was patient, but it remembered everything. One by one they walked through the arch. One by one, the Pulse weighed them and returned a verdict in light and numbers. The room was a machine of judgment, each score landing like a gavel, and the students absorbed it with the practiced ease of people who had been measured since birth and had learned to call it love. Jax Miller, 9.9. The arch exploded in white gold light so bright the front 3 rows squinted. Standing ovation. The Pulse triggered a harmonic chord in the ambient audio, a sound reserved for scores above 9.5. Jax raised both hands, grinning, and the room roared. A 9.9, up from 9.8. In a city that worshipped optimization, Jax Miller was approaching divinity. I watched his score hover above the arch, massive, gleaming, perfect, and I felt that thing again, that hot, nameless pressure beneath my anger. Not jealousy. I wasn't jealous of Jax. You can't envy what exists in a system you've never been part of. It was something else, something closer to grief. The names continued. Priya Sato, 9.2, Oren Malik, 8.8. Student after student, score after score, and with each one, the back row thinned as my section of the alphabet approached, and the empty space around me grew wider, as if the room itself was quietly clearing a path to the stage for the boy who didn't register. Thorne, Silas. My legs stood me up before my brain gave permission. I walked down the aisle. The seats on either side were a blur of faces that didn't turn, eyes that didn't track, attention that had already moved on to anticipating the next real score. The aisle was long. The stage was bright. The valuation arch loomed ahead of me, its twin panels dark and waiting. I stepped between them. The scan started. I felt it, a wave of warmth that passed through my body, from crown to soles, followed by a tingling at the back of my skull, like every neuron firing at once. The panels lit up. Data began to cascade across their surfaces, but not gold, not warm. The light was grey, a flat, neutral grey, like static on an untuned screen. My data streams looked thin, fragmented, like the system was pulling up my file and finding mostly empty pages. 4 seconds. That's how long a scan takes. At the 2-second mark, the grey light flickered. At the 3-second mark, it went black. Not dim, not dark. The same absolute light-eating black I'd seen on my wristband in the cafeteria. The panels of the valuation arch, 12 feet of smart glass engineered to display human worth in radiant colour, turned into 2 slabs of void. The golden columns of light in the auditorium guttered. The ambient scent cut out. The temperature dropped 3 degrees in an instant. 400 students went silent. Not pulse silent, fear silent. The number appeared above the arch. Not 0.0. I'd expected 0.0. I'd prepared for 0.0. I'd made peace with 0.0 the way you make peace with gravity. It was just the shape of my world, and I'd learned to live inside it. The number was -1, -1. It hung above me in red light, not the warm red of caution, but the deep, arterial red of the drone that had deleted the glitch lady. It pulsed. Each pulse sent a ripple through the smart glass panels, and I watched the ripple spread outward into the auditorium, across the floor, up the walls, over the faces of 400 students who were, for the first time in their lives, looking directly at me. Every single one of them, every pair of eyes in the room, locked on Silas Thorne. Not through me, not past me, at me. The pulse had been unable to see me for 3 years. But a negative value? A minus? That wasn't invisible. That was the opposite of invisible. That was a wound in the data. An error so fundamental it couldn't be ignored, only contained. Principal Voss was on her feet. Her mouth was open, but no sound was coming out. Mr. Haddix was tapping his datapad frantically. On the stage, the valuation arch was doing something it had never done in the history of the school. The panels were vibrating, a low structural hum that I felt in my teeth, the same frequency as the hum beneath the floor, the same frequency as the heartbeat in the black envelope. And on my wrist, where beneath my sleeve, beneath the skin, the tiny broken circuit heart was burning. The number above me pulsed one final time. Then every screen in the auditorium, every panel, every display, every wristband on every wrist of every student and teacher in the room flickered to black and displayed 2 words in jagged torn font. He wakes. The lights came back. The screens cleared. The pulse resumed its normal operations in under a second, smoothing over the disruption like it had never happened. But the silence held, and 400 pairs of eyes stayed exactly where they were, on me.